Hey there everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Killbuck by Sean Knickerbocker. This is put out by 1% Press, and this is Knickerbocker's debut graphic novel. Knickerbocker is also organizing the Rust Belt reviews that I'm going through one at a time. I have 1 through 5, 5 being the newest one. So I ordered all these at the same time, and I'm a really big fan of what Sean Knickerbocker is doing, both as an artist and kind of as an organizer of a group of artists putting together these anthologies, a curator and editor, is really like creating a type of comic that's what I want. You know, when I think about what I would like to make as a comic, it's kind of this type of thing, or the thing that I wish I was good enough to write. I'm not, I'm just not good enough to write like this, I don't think. So there's that, and all the comics that he's organizing have this pretty down-to-earth feel. They're just about people living real life. They have a real good ear for dialogue. There's no kind of bombastic genre stuff, but they can still be emotionally gripping. And I feel like that carries into Knickerbocker's his own work as well, not just the artist that he's organizing. So this book is a great example of that. You can see right out the gate also a great cartoonist. Someone who reminds me a little bit of Sammy Harcum, but a little bit rougher. There's maybe some of the Michael Sweater, and you see a lot of different influences, but I think Charles Forsman, maybe some of these faces as well. So I see a number of different influences, but these kind of functional cartoonists where you never get insane camera angles or anything like that. It's pretty steady, but really good storytelling. So basically what you get is you get these characters who are trying to get with these girls, kind of. This is just a picture. Really what this is it's a picture of a small town and the characters in the small town. And you get a picture of the characters as well, but I think as much as it's a character study of each character, those also paint a picture of an area. And I think with Knickerbocker's interest in the Rust Belt and that kind of type of living that he's trying to represent, the regional vibe that he grew up in, I think he's capturing that as well. And as someone now who's living more in areas like this, I guess I can relate to these even better now than I would have just being someone who lived in larger areas for my life. So basically, you have these couple kids. They're breaking into a cabin with this character Chris, and this is Jesse, I believe. You don't get all the names right away, which is actually kind of nice. That feels natural to me. I know I've made that mistake. We had to make that mistake with Abolition of Man, where everyone's using everyone's name all the time just because you couldn't tell who the characters were. But it is a thing about writing where you feel like you got to contrive a reason to give a character's name right away. And Knickerbocker doesn't do that. It will be a while until we learn these other characters' names. So right now we know Chris, and Chris is breaking in with these other two guys into this cabin that's basically like a vacation cabin, so no one's there. Then Jesse peels off from the group and heads back home. So he says he's been over at his friend Eric's house, and I believe that's this character here is the Eric character. So you have Chris, Eric, and Jesse who have kind of invaded this house. Now, the thing that I find really, really nice about this, I'm going to kind of have to spoil this book a little bit, but I want to do that because it's showing what a intentional writer and artist Knickerbocker is, and how he will build up and accrue kind of character meaning both for the character themselves and for the place that they live in through very subtle and small means. So here you have this coffee shop that some of the girls that these boys are interested in hanging out with work at, and this character comes in because they're mounting an art show, and she puts up this photograph of she's photographed a stop sign with war written on it. I saw this sign in the city, I just had to take a picture of it, and they're like, how profound. So that is something that you could kind of see as maybe you don't know where this is going. Is there going to be a story about this person selling their art or blah 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 blah, whatever it is. So you kind of get that, and it's obviously not throwaway, but you don't know what it is yet. So you get introduced to these characters at the store. The main one that I got the name for right away is this character here with the shorter hair is Gracie. But Gracie and her friend, they're getting an invite from Eric and Jesse to go hang out at this cabin that they've got. So they want to take these girls out to the cabin. Now this is where the stop sign thing gets interesting to me, is you see here that Gracie goes over to a stop sign and writes art on the stop sign. So you get the implication that Gracie was probably the one who wrote war on the stop sign, and she thought it was funny that someone else had appropriated her artwork, taken a picture of it, brought it to the coffee shop, and was going to sell it as art. And so she like has rejoined back by writing stop art. It's not 100% clear that she was the one who wrote the original one, but the implication is there. And I like that really no one addresses it, you know, like none of the characters talk about it. None of them talk about, hey, was that you that wrote on the thing? No one mentions her writing on the sign. She never says fuck that lady or anything like that. She just does this gesture. And so you kind of have to remember from previous pages what was going on and put it all together yourself. And that's just, I think, exceptional cartooning and comics. You know, there's no captions, there's no extra stuff, but it all gets conveyed so clearly. And that's just so impressive to me. Here you have, they're at the cabin and the people are kind of screwing around, and the Eric is obviously the kind of more unhinged of them all, and so he's kind of get in an argument with Sam and gets mad at this character and pulls a gun on him, supposedly joking around. But then the gun does go off, and then he's like, well, you know, like I didn't know it was loaded. And so just like a really bad idea, right? At this point, they've invaded this private cabin and they're partying there. Here's Gracie talking with her mom. Her mom's doing some kind of like jazzercise dance routine. Her mom's encouraging her to study for the SATs to try and get out of town. And she says, whatever, the SATs are crazy biased anyways. It's so messed up. And I thought that was a really good representation of like the viewpoint that a lot of kids in my students' generation, you know, people who are like 18 to 21 right now have, it seems like, is that we do so much in our public discourse talking about how broken our institutions are, which is true. It's a problem, it's broken, we need to fix it. But the kids have heard so much of this that they just don't believe in anything anymore. So it's like, well, SATs, I'm not going to take it because they're crazy, like have racial biases built in and stuff in them. Rather than saying, well, yeah, they're fucked up, but for right now, that's what I got to do for myself. It's just like, why bother with anything? And I get that as like a kind of zeitgeist feeling right now that post-COVID, post 9/11, just the post-Trump, like the world has gone to a place where no one trusts anything, no one believes in anything. AI is taking over. Like they really just don't feel like the effort is worth it because they don't know that that effort's going to pay off even 5 years from now. And that's a really unfortunate, sad state that we've left them with. So, you know, a lot of the things that drive me crazy about this generation, I'm also very aware of like this, where those things that drive me crazy, like the lack of ambition, is being caused, and not everyone, but in more than there used to be in my experience teaching. And I'm sure these are cycles. I've only been teaching for 10 years, so I'm sure after, you know, another 10, 20 years, I'll have seen this cycle a couple times, but it's really sad to see, and it's so clearly represented just in this one. And that's why I think this is just, you know, really well observed and really good writing, is that whole worldview is pretty much summed up in that one statement. Here we go to this character, Gene. Now Gene is smoking weed in a gigantic blow up snowball, but this is where these characters are going to get their weed hookup. And there's a situation going down there. Then you come back, you have this character, I don't know all whose name is where, but you get this character working at like a movie store, a movie rental store, Yeah, Videorama. So it's actually a bit hard. I should say it's a bit hard to place the timeline on these because this all feels like when I was a kid in the 90s, but then set in a rural environment. But then there's also, like I said, a sense that the people being represented are like today's youth. So I'm wondering like how prevalent, because even here like in Alabama I don't see video stores and all this kind of stuff. So I do wonder like how old Sean Knickerbocker is. When would he have been growing up? Do things like video stores still even exist in some of these rural communities? There's just things like that where I'm having a bit of a hard time placing it because it feels like something made by someone in their 20s maybe, but then at the same time feels like a worldview of someone my age when they were 20. So I don't know. That's a bit weird. But anyways, this character has to go, clean up this nasty toilet here, and he says, "I'd rather quit," and then does it anyways. I've actually been told to clean toilets like that in different jobs, and I never once had to do it because I just refused. And I told them I'd quit, and I was always a valuable enough employee or I just had nice enough managers I never had to do that. So thank God, because I could never do something like that. Here's another page where I think the writing is really, really nice. Again, you can see like there's all these plots that I'm like zooming past, like we're getting this weed, we're smoking in this cabin, this guy's shooting. None of that really matters because it's all just stuff going on. And that's why I said this is a character study of a place, and then within that you get all of these minor character studies of the people impacted by the place and the events that impact them. So if it feels like I'm jumping around plot-wise, that is the case. There isn't so much one through-line plot as a bunch of just evolution of characters. So anyways, you get Gracie, and I think this is Jesse now with their hair pulled back, talking about going to school because obviously Gracie's mom has been pushing her to go to school. So my aunt and her boyfriend live in Utica. Maybe I'll crash there while I figure it out. Figure it out? Yeah, like I don't know if I really even want to go to college, and there's no way my dad would help pay for tuition. I'll need to get a job to pay for school and rent. I don't know. The whole thing is a shit show. And so again, I feel really, connected to this through my students, that these are a bunch of people. And he says, all I know is that I want to get out of Killbuck. I hear that. Oh shit, is that Eric? So these are characters that are trapped in these very, very small communities. I have a number of students now that are coming to the community college in the 100,000 person town, from very, very small towns. And even relative to where I grew up, 100,000 people in town's pretty small relative to the 350, which was the 1,000 that I grew, 300,000, 250 to 300,000 that I grew up with in Modesto. That was seen as a small town relative to like San Francisco and the other big towns. So people living in very, very, very small trapped towns. Also, Tori grew up in towns like that and did get out. So that's represented very well, like what a place like this does to one's perception of their chances in life and how they're trying to figure out how to make that happen, but whether that's worth it for them or not. Here at the end of the book, you find out that really this book kind of is like Gracie becomes one of the main characters in a way, in that this stop sign thing cycles back, and now the show's ending, and Gracie really seems to want this piece now in the way that originally she had seemed to react badly against it by putting stop art. She now wants this piece, and it says it's not for sale, but could I buy it? And goes in on that a little bit and tries to buy this painting, and then brings it to Jesse as a gift. Here you get the sense that she's actually really kind of happy that someone thought that what she did was worth taking a picture of. But then you realize that it's not for herself, that it's a gift, and the gift is used, and again, sorry for spoil alerts and stuff here, but the gift is used, and I just want to show this because I think it's so smart. The gift is used to then get Jesse to come out to their old house. So going out to where a house used to be that burnt down, And they go out there and they have memories, because remember, these are both kids who are thinking about going to college, and in other parts in the book have expressed like, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know how I'll do it, but like maybe I'll just stay here. And so they go to the childhood home of Jesse and Grace, just Jesse, and Jesse's remembering this tree that was there that they used to blow up firecrackers in, and just having memories like that. And you get this really, I think, awesome, poignant ending here. Reminds me a little bit of the end of Ghost World, actually. But going out to the family home and having all of these memories is actually not pleasant for Jesse, because Jesse's never left town yet. Like, we went back to Tori's like farm that she grew up on, and I remember the picture I have of her from there is like one of the most beautiful pictures of her that I have, because just her engaged, like the absorption in the memories was so strong for her, and a pleasant thing, where because she's left and gone and moved to California and like developed a life outside of that. These characters haven't done that yet, so them going to memorize, and you have Jesse saying, God, this is just depressing, I'm sorry that I dragged you out here. And then Gracie says, what, were you expecting a bunch of happy memories and good vibes? No, if you wanted that, you wouldn't have come here. This is what you wanted. And I like that that's just the last thing that's said in there, because it's the suggestion of like, you went out here to remind yourself that you don't want to be here. You want to move on. And you should get out of this town. We should get out of this town. And none of that, like, I almost even feel bad sitting here making it explicit in the video, because none of these things that I'm making explicit are explicit. They're all between the lines, but still communicated very clearly. The reason I'm going out of my way to spoil things and make them explicit is because they're indications of how fucking good Sean Knickerbocker is as a writer and a cartoonist. And like I said, it's very hard for me to peg the age of this creator, things like that. So hopefully this is someone who's still pretty young and has many, many years ahead of them as an artist. Because if this is the debut, and the work that I'm seeing in the Rust Belt review is indicative of, what kind of books we will continue getting from Sean Knickerbocker, then I could not be like higher on an artist. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's a indicia on here with the publication date. So this is 2017. So Knickerbocker's been working for a while since then as well, which maybe explains some of the time things. Maybe Knickerbocker's older than I'm assuming. But anyways, a creator that I just really, really believe in. So definitely go out, get yourself some Rust Belt review anthologies, get yourself Killbuck, get yourself Sean Knickerbocker's other book called Rust Belt. They're all just really great works that all have this kind of same approach that I'm celebrating here. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and want to support us, want to see more videos like this, then the best thing you could do is to support either, well, there's two ways you can support us. One is through our Patreon. We have 2 different tiers of engagement on the Patreon. At the first tier, you just get early access to the videos we make. At the second tier, you can get exclusive access to previews of the books that Sean and I are drawing, as well as the ability to participate in and control the story in our online webcomic experiment Pranay Day. If you want to support Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of his projects now. House on Fire by Matt Battaglia is a just gorgeous book where Matt's kind of making an emotional response to the years of COVID and wrapping that into a sci-fi dystopian future that really the sci-fi dystopian's backgrounded, and you're focused on the emotional journey of 2 characters in a really beautiful way. And then that's enhanced by Matt's like really awesome, loose, kind of Paul Popish dry brush work. And then Sean and Matt have worked to get this second kind of orange spot color in there that's going to look really, really beautiful, and has allowed Matt to use his dry brush technique to add tone to the thing too. So with Sean's production technique, this is going to be a gorgeous book with a lot of heart.
Like and subscribe and hit the bell, please, so Carson can finish reading his books and let me go home.